Hello, everyone. I just want to thank you all for being here or being here virtually. It's a real pleasure to be back at the Wildlife Disturbance Symposium. So my name is Alex Heeren. I'll let the other folks of our team introduce themselves when they step up. But we're all from the Wildlife Health Laboratory, which is part of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's the wildlife branch. So part of the work that we do at the Wildlife Health Laboratory, it looks at wildlife diseases, both zoonotic diseases as well as diseases that affect different species, as well as more of the social and cultural health of wildlife as well in relation to humans, so how humans interact with wildlife. Our presentation is probably going to be a little bit different than a lot of the ones today in the fact that we're mostly focused on terrestrial species, as California, the state of California does not have jurisdiction over marine mammals. That's really more up to the federal agencies have jurisdiction over marine mammals. That being said, members of our staff do help out with assist the federal agencies with marine mammal issues. The other reason why our presentation might be a little bit different from others today, with the exception of our friend 841, is that a lot of our work is focusing on at least the perception that wildlife are disturbing humans. Now, in actual fact, we know that all human-wildlife conflict is usually driven by human behavior, but the perception amongst the public is that in certain cases, wildlife are coming, causing property damage, causing a nuisance or a problem. So one of the challenges that we face at the department is how to help transform the conflict, transform the narrative, that trying to get it, manage expectations of the public around wildlife to change that perception, change that human behavior, so that it's more correctly seen that it's the human-wildlife conflict is a result of human behaviors, and how we can mitigate those human behaviors to prevent conflict with wildlife. So with that, I'll go over a quick program overview and then turn it over to the rest of our team here. We have, again, California Department of Fish and Wildlife is a rather large wildlife agency. We are the public trust agency for wildlife management in the state of California. We have a smaller team just focused within our wildlife health program, wildlife health laboratory, focused on human-wildlife conflict. Our supervisor is Vicki Monroe. You have myself, who's the lead research scientist for the Human Dimensions Unit. So I'm the department's, I believe, currently lone social scientist. We have Dr. Lombardi, who is our large carnivore research scientist, and we have Dr. Lombardi, and also Dr. Perry, who is our wildlife rehabilitation program coordinator. We also, for those of you who have worked with us, you may have remembered Ryan Leahy, who was our human-wildlife conflict coordinator. However, Ryan recently got promoted and now is a supervisor in a different area of our department, so that vacancy is posted, and we're actively recruiting for that. I believe the posting date ends on Friday, so if you know of anyone who might be interested in that, please let them know. Just a quick overview of our human-wildlife conflict program. Our regional staff. Again, this is a new program. So prior to 2022, dealing with human-wildlife conflict, which was a huge ask, it was essentially an unfunded mandate, that it was something that we were that the public expected us to handle, but we didn't actually have any specific staff or resources devoted specifically to human-wildlife conflict. So it always sort of came out of some of our other duties, our other conservation and management duties. In 2022, the state grant funding for a human-wildlife conflict program. To hire, in addition to a coordinator, as well as Dana Taylor here, regional staff to focus specifically on human-wildlife conflict. So as you can see, we have a few positions funded throughout the state. Again, it's I think we have just about over a dozen positions, so that again, folks are still spread pretty thin because California is a huge state, but it is a better start than the 0 positions we had originally. So going forward, that we're working on fleshing out this program. We have a couple endeavors already underway. For example, we have as part of both the human-wildlife conflict and human dimensions, which again I focus on more on the human side of human-wildlife conflict. We do a variety of different town hall meetings, community meetings. we help cities and local jurisdictions review wildlife management plans. We also do a lot of work on tracking and reporting incidents. We'll talk about that in a moment. And as well as working on conservation coaching for training different volunteers across the state and helping the public have, again, realistic expectations of interactions with wildlife. So this is all a list of things that should not be happening, but that can cause problems with wildlife. And again, our goal is to help try to prevent some of these behaviors to avoid both us humans disturbing wildlife, but also help transform the conflict. Is this your section still or still me? Oh, good. I've been traveling the last couple of weeks, so I did not rehearse my position, my part, but so we have in endeavor to help with that, we have a set of tools and resources online. This is our the QR code to get to that. There a list of some of the laws and regulations related to human wildlife conflict, as well as species specific tools and resources. If you aren't able to capture this QR code, if you go to www.wildlife.ca.gov, there will be a link on our homepage to bring you here. Called the landing page is called Living with Wildlife. So with that, now it's Dana's turn to. So Dana will talk about some of our wildlife incident reporting systems and tools that we use to help track human wildlife encounters.
Hello, I am Dana, obviously. And so I will be going over just a couple of our wildlife incident reporting tools. We have others that I won't be going over. So there are, we track several different types of incidents on each of the tools. The first one we'll go over is one that the public can also has access to for reporting incidents and requesting permits. There's different types of incidents that they can report: general nuisance, animals, so animals that are on the property but not necessarily causing damage, or perceived nuisance, property damage, as well as public safety concerns and stuff like that. So this is on the left. You see the logo that we use across our CDFW website for the Wildlife Incident Reporting System, or WIR, and the QR code will take you to the public-facing side of that system, and you can get to the form for reporting wildlife incidents. We also have a link to this reporting system on our homepage, and it's across the website as well, on other pages. So for the public or any organizations that are taking phone calls from people that are reporting wildlife incidents and redirecting them to this site, if they have access to the internet, they can either email one of the regional offices or the Wildlife Health Lab and give us the information needed to submit the report, or they can go in and submit the form that you see on the right themselves, or if they don't have access to the internet, they can call in and give the information, and we can someone will submit it on their behalf. So the information that we would need is their name, phone number, a way to contact them, and one of the more important things is exact location of where the incident is, in case someone needs to go to the site and do a site visit. Okay. So all the reports submitted to the WIR are assigned a WIR number, and so on the internal side of the system, we can go in and search for each incident using the investigator homepage. We can report wildlife incidents on behalf of a member of the public. And this is also a way that we track permitting information for depredation animals. And so you can get to all of that information. We can get to all that information from this reporting system, and we track the data and can query it for PRAs and other requests like that. Each incident is also given an investigation dashboard that shows all the information and supporting evidence that is attached to the incident. So it's really helpful, again, if the, like others have mentioned, if they can provide photos or video. A lot of times people put in videos from like Ring doorbells and Ring cameras that capture wildlife on their property, as well as, and also the location is really helpful. They can provide that. We can also track if there's a permit attached to it. This is also how we get to the permit. There's usually a PDF of the permit attached there, as well as any take information for depredation animals. And here we have some data of the top 7 reported wildlife. This is all of the different types of incidents that can be reported onto the WIR system. This is just 2017 to 2023.
Wild turkey?
Yes. Yeah, there's lots of others that can be reported on this system as well, but
Do you know how many of those mountain lions were actually mountain lions? Maybe bobcat.
so we do have, if you can see the investigative actions tab, there is a way for the investigator to confirm the species, and also the if any damage was reported, confirm the type of damage reported. So most likely, most of those are mountain lions, because it's across the whole state.
And while our staff before, if it's a more like serious incident, then they will do an investigation. For some of those mountain lions, they could be bobcats, or we've had cases where someone thought it was a raccoon was a mountain lion. From a social science, from a social science perspective, I always tell folks that even if it's not accurate, if the person thinks they saw a mountain lion and they're acting as if they saw a mountain lion, from the purposes of how they respond to wildlife, it's still essentially, even if it's not accurate, it's still perceived as a mountain lion. So I always I think the data is important, but it should also be a measure of human behavior, human reporting towards wildlife, not a measure of wildlife behavior.
Mm. Yeah, public perception. And also most of the incidents that are reported are assigned an authorized investigator. So they will they'll call the person to confirm or do a site visit, depending on what's involved in the report. And then the other system is our internal CalLog SharePoint site, which we just created middle of last year. And so this is just our way of tracking and internal coordination on reports, calls that we get that aren't put on the WIR system, So this helps us track all of that information in a more streamlined system. And we also have different ways of viewing this information and querying it for reports. And we also track wildlife rehabilitation data, and that includes collaring, which Taylor will be going over shortly, some of our collaring program. And this is some of the data that we have from that system just over the last several months. And this, of course, might also not be exactly correct, but it's also how people have reported what they've perceived as these species, and how they've reported their sightings, or if they think it's a perceived threat, such. And yeah, so hand it over to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. Like Dana mentioned, I'm Taylor. I'm going to be talking about some of our collaring programs we've been working on here. With conflict, it's just one of our different responses that might be required when we get a conflict report. The goals of collaring are to closely monitor known or potential conflict animals, and to determine the success of black bear rehabilitation or general animal relocation, and to gauge the effectiveness of prevention and deterrence methods we might employ to help mitigate conflict situations. And all these collaring efforts will help us guide CDF's response to conflict in the future as our brand new program starts moving forward here. All right, so here we have, as mentioned earlier, we have over 20 specialized staff who deal with conflict now. And we work along other biologists and CDFW staff across the state to handle these situations. So that allows us to have a statewide effort of collaring. And here you can see some staff prepping animals for collaring. And on the top right there, that's actually the first animal that a conflict collar was deployed on, which was a very large black bear. And so alongside just our general calling efforts, we have specific programs to work and collar animals. So we have something known as trap tag haze, that takes place across some of our regional areas, where they go out to known conflict areas or areas where we get a lot of reports, that kind of thing. And the effort is to capture and collar a bunch of animals so we can see in that area what those animals are up to. We can further monitor their behavior and habituation. So the GPS data can help us identify problem spots. If someone's leaving trash out, if someone's feeding animals in the area, we can see what those animals are up to. We can help identify if there's specific animals that are known to be getting into conflict in that area. So to help with these different programs, we've got 400 specific collars just for conflict that we've gotten since the start of our program. So this is the two species of focus with these collars. On the tan ones there on the left-hand side are for mountain lions, and then the brown ones there are for bears. So those are two main areas of focus. Some of the species we see a lot of perceived conflict with. So there's different sizes of collars because we've got different species, you've got different age classes, different weight classes, everything. So here I even brought a couple with me. So here's one of our smaller collars. This one's about 45 centimeters all around. So this is going to be a small bear. I'm going to talk in a bit here about some rehabilitation bears that were released fitting with these collars. And then this is even our second smallest collar here. It's 75 centimeters. That's going to go on a big bear. And you can even see here, there's a lot of batteries in here to help it last for a while for some of these large animals and adult animals that will be out there for a while. So deployment durations can go anywhere from 9 months for some of these younger animals. A lot of deployment duration is also dependent on a lot of the same factors as picking the sizes. So age of animal, weight of the animal, and the duration and fixes are based on the battery you pack here. Some of them, to make them light enough to go on younger animals, got to have fewer batteries. So these collars won't last as long. We have to watch how much data is transmitted to make sure that we don't drain the batteries. We can train them or track them for as long as we need to. So we can get even up to hourly fixes in some of these animals, which might depend on why the animal was collared. So mountain lions, we might want the collar to be on it for 2 years. They're hard to catch. They're going to be out in the wild away from people. But, you know, a bear that's hanging around neighborhoods, known to get into conflict, we might want hourly fixes so that staff can go out, find that animal. And if it's, you know, hanging around someone's house, we can haze it away, give it that negative stimulus and try to deter that behavior. So alongside the tracking log for phone calls that we have on our SharePoint site, we also developed 2 new databases that are all interconnected to help us track the humongous amount of callers that we have and all the animals that we're trying to keep track of. So these sites interconnect, so you can create a page for an animal, and in that page we can track every time that animal comes into hand. If it needs to be recollared, it's got multiple collars on, you can track everything that that animal is doing, whether it's currently collared or it was. And then on the collar side, that helps us track the current battery life. If this animal ends up on multiple animals, which animals it's been on, all that kind of information. And it helps us know when we need to send these collars in to be either refurbished and have them fixed up, or that they're, you know, destroyed and need to be retired. All right, so now I'm going to go into some of our rehabilitation releases. 2023 marked the first year that CDFW collared all bears eligible for release from rehabilitation facilities. We have 4 across the state that help us take care of these animals. So this year we had 20 animals that we collared, and we are about 6 months into the deployments for these collars. They're released starting the beginning of April, and the releases took the course over about the course of a month. So currently we have 13 that are still tracking, that we can still see what they're up to. We had 4 unfortunate mortalities throughout the 6 months, and then we've had 2 collar failures. These cotton spacers on the side of the collar are to help make sure that the collar does not stay on the animal if for whatever reason there's an internal drop off. If that does not deploy and this does not drop off of an animal, that this will rot off. So we had 1 collar where this actually failed early, and so that animal is likely out there somewhere, but just lost his collar a bit early. And then we have 1 other animal that we don't know what happened to quite yet. It's just in really difficult terrain. It's really difficult to get out there and find these collars when they're kind of like out way in the wilderness. So we have 1 collar that we're not sure what happened to that guy. So now I'm going to go into a couple of the maps where you can see what kind of data we get from these collars. So here's one deployment. This one has unfortunately ended. It went for about 3.5 months. This animal has a very relatively small range compared to some of the other data that we see. You can see how we interact with the landscape here. That's 101 there on the left-hand side. You can see how often that this animal was crossing back and forth. We did not get any conflict reports from this animal, but it is, you know, around some picnic areas and RV campgrounds, that kind of thing. Fortunately, we didn't actually get any reports that this animal was coming into close contact with people, which is always a good thing, especially for these animals that are brought in and, you know, reared by humans for a few months. So this animal, unfortunately, crossing that road so many times, did get hit by a car. We unfortunately lost this one, but you can just see how he's using the landscape there. And then this next one, now this is still an active deployment, this guy, much larger range. You can see this is around Mount Shasta area. So down there on the right-hand side was where this one was released, made a long trek up into Oregon even, crossing over that border, and then coming back down and just navigating his new landscape. Now this one we also haven't gotten any conflict reports from or heard any word that he's getting into trouble. So this one seems to be just navigating his new world now that he's back out in the wild. Now this one is a good example of what you might see for a conflict animal. So this animal was released over there on the left. You can see that red box. That's where he was brought back or dropped off after being in rehab. And this animal was originally brought in from the Forest Falls, Lake Arrowhead area up there. The words are even obstructed by how many data points are up there at the top. This animal was brought in from rehab, or brought into rehab, released, and then you can see he made an absolute beeline back to where it had come from. And this animal was unfortunately reported like breaking it, or not breaking into homes, but being very close to people, multiple reports of it, hanging around homes. And we were able to increase the data for this one and our staff are able to several times haze it away, which some of those loops you can see where it leaves that general area, that's after hazing, but unfortunately, like someone mentioned with the sea otters, doesn't last for very long sometimes, and he headed right back to where he was getting into trouble. So this is kind of the power of these collars and what we can learn with how they're interacting with people in conflict, and how we all share this landscape together. So thank you so much.